Jeffery Sinclair was the original commander of Babylon 5. Early life. Jeffery Sinclair was born on Mars, 9:15 a.m. EST on May 3, 2218, the son of a career military officer, David Sinclair, and a professor of North American literature, Gemma Gildia Sinclair. Jeffery also had a brother, Malcolm. His father flew for Earth Force during the Dilgar War and was eventually killed during the conflict, though not before being present at the liberation of Balos. According to Jeffery, his father never forgot what he saw there. Members of the Sinclair family had been fighter pilots dating all the way back to the Battle of Britain. He was close to his grandfather, whom he later credited with teaching him everything he knew about flying. His grandfather also explained to him the importance of ignoring propaganda and to focus on what he can see. Following the death of his father, Jeffery attended a Jesuit school, run by Father Raffaele and his wife, both of whom were priests. The couple would become lifelong friends of Jeff's until their deaths in 2252. While at the school, Sinclair learned to appreciate mornings, getting up at sunrise for mass followed by an hour of meditation before class. Though he never intended to join the religious life, Sinclair maintained a faith in God throughout his life, though he once told Marcus Cole that he was still working out the details. All he ever wanted was to be a fighter pilot, like his dad. Though he was a Marsborn, he spent as much time growing up on Earth as he did on Mars and held a deep fondness for both worlds and their peoples. After leaving school, Sinclair spent 2 years traveling, working construction and other odd jobs before finally enlisting in Earth Force Academy. Early career. Sinclair enlisted in Earth Force in 2237. During his first year at Earth Force Academy, Sinclair met John Sheridan for the first time when he made the unfortunate mistake of getting his attention by spilling a tray of food on him. Since Sheridan was a dutiful upperclassman, he decided to spend as much time as possible making Sinclair's first year a living hell. In 2240, Jeffery was promoted to fighter pilot and less than a year later, was promoted to squadron leader. Due to his rapid rise through the ranks, it was rumored that Sinclair was on the fast track to making admiral. In 2243, Sinclair was serving as a flight instructor at the academy when he met Cadet Catherine Sockeye while she was in her second year. During her first instruction flight with Sinclair, he almost made her black out after he performed a hairpin backward loop followed by a spinning barrel roll. She would later admit to herself that it was love at first sight. This was the beginning of a 15-year on-again off-again relationship where the two would often argue and go their separate ways for years at a time, only to get back together and begin the cycle anew. After the Earth-Minbury War ended in 2248, Sockeye left Earth Force for a life as a professional planetary surveyor and independent contractor. The Battle of the Line. As squadron leader, Sinclair fought at the Battle of the Line, the last major battle in the Earth-Minbury War. During the course of the battle, his squadron was destroyed by the Minbury in mere minutes, resulting in the death of many friends, including Bill Mitchell. Sinclair's own fighter was badly damaged, rendering the weapons disabled and engines failing. In a last act of defiance, Sinclair attempted to ram one of the Minbury cruisers. Something passed in front of his eyes and he apparently blacked out. When he awoke 24 hours later, the war was over, the Minbury had surrendered. The surviving Earth instruments showed his ship missing for a whole day, but it was officially ruled an instrument malfunction. Sinclair wondered what happened to him in those missing 24 hours for many years, though for 9 years he did not seriously question the idea that he had blacked out due to acceleration. The truth of why the Minbury surrendered became clearer over time. Sinclair's ship had been disabled and brought aboard the Minbury capital ship containing the Grey Council. Sinclair was briefly tortured for information by Copland, who used the triluminary on him, leading to a shocking discovery. Sinclair, they believed, had a Minbury soul. Restrained in the Grey Council chamber, Delenn uses the triluminary, and it glowing in Sinclair's presence, she declares that Sinclair had the soul of Valin himself. In actuality, the triluminary glowed because it was responding to his DNA, encoded in the transformational matrices when the future Sinclair used it in 1260 to become Valin. Delenn interpreted this as a sign that the humans had an important part to play in the coming Shadow War. During his interrogations by the Council, Sinclair saw Delenn, although he did not know her at that time. The Minbury used a telepath to suppress his memories of the entire event. Sinclair was one of about 200 survivors of the battle, which claimed over 20,000 human lives. He was awarded a special medal in recognition for service on the line, but he rarely spoke about the event in the immediate years following, as he could not rationalize why the Minbury would surrender, and why he had survived. The Babylon Project. When Babylon 5 went online in March 2256, Sinclair was chosen to be in charge of the station, even though several others were in line in front of him. Sinclair was surprised when they informed him, as he was comparatively low-ranked compared to many of the other candidates. He would learn later that he was specifically chosen at the behest of the Minbury, who were the first to sign on to Babylon 5 but only on the condition they were allowed to choose the station commander. He brought on board Laurel Tokushima as his second-in-command, keeping his promotion promised to her. His friend Michael Garibaldi comes on board in January 2257 as his security chief, after completing his Mars security assignment. Their previous experience on Mars had left Sinclair with a deep trust in Michael. The first year was relatively quiet, as many different races came to the station and signed onto the project. Finally, the Vorlon Empire agreed to send an ambassador, which meant all 5 of the major powers would have a voice on the Babylon 5 Advisory Council. When the Vorlon ambassador, Kosh Naranek, arrived at the station on January 4, 2257, Sinclair was supposed to meet him alone. He took a transport tube that suddenly stalled on its way to meet the ambassador, and when he did arrive he found Kosh lying on the ground, seemingly attacked. He had Kosh taken to the isolab, but the ambassador's encounter suit precluded any possibility of treatment. The Vorlon Empire specifically demanded his suit not be opened, but Sinclair ordered Dr. Benjamin Kyle to open it anyway and save Kosh. He ordered Kyle not to report anything he saw about Kosh's physiology. Kyle learned that Kosh had been poisoned, but needed to know the exact entry point. Sinclair asked the human telepath Lita Alexander to scan Kosh's mind and figure out how he was poisoned. Lita successfully saw that the poison was administered through the hand, seemingly by Sinclair himself. Kosh recognized Sinclair greeting him with the internal acknowledgement Entil Jar, Valin. Sinclair and Garibaldi managed to learn that the attack had been carried out through the use of a changeling net. The real culprits were a radical clan within the Minbury warrior caste called the Wind Swords, who had sent a lone assassin to frame Sinclair. When Sinclair discovered the assassin's identity, he demanded to know the reason why, but the assassin only replied enigmatically that there is a hole in your mind before triggering a bomb on his person. On the 25th of February 2258, Lieutenant Commander Susan Ivanova replaced Lieutenant Commander Laurel Tokushima. The chief medical officer, Benjamin Kyle, was also recalled to Earth Dome, returning to his post as head of xenobiological research to work with the president. The new chief medical officer, Stephen Franklin, arrived in March 2258. Franklin had known Sinclair previously. After Babylon 5. A few days into 2259, Commander Sinclair is recalled to Earth. About a week later, it is announced that he is being reassigned as the Earth Alliance ambassador on Minbar. When he arrives, he is finally told the full story about his capture at the Battle of the Line. The Minbury learned during their questioning of him that he had a Minbury soul. Ambassador Sinclair. Sinclair also learns about the coming of shadows. He becomes the leader of the Rangers, assuming the title Ranger 1, as Anlashok N.A. Turville steps down and is given lodgings in the very house that Valin lived in 1,000 years ago, left unoccupied but perfectly maintained since his leaving Minbar. His position as head of the Anlashok and as Earth's official ambassador to Minbar allowed him to swell the ranks of the Rangers with humans, all of whom are trained on Minbar to fight in the Great War the Minbury have been predicting for 1,000 years. Rathan, who was an old friend of Delenn, worked with Ambassador Sinclair at her request, and Sinclair expressed thanks and gratitude to him for his hard work and friendship. Almost immediately in his new job he caused a controversy among the Minbury by insisting that Ranger membership be open to all Minbury, including the worker caste, who had up till that point been barred from service. The Closed Circle. In 2260, after Earth declared martial law and Babylon 5 declared independence, Sinclair is approached by Rathan with a container that was sealed by Valin over 900 years earlier, with instructions to be opened on that specific day. Rathan revealed the contents to Sinclair, a letter addressed to him personally. After reading the letter, Sinclair immediately makes preparations to return to Babylon 5, taking his leave of Rathan and the Rangers. Upon his arrival, he immediately meets with Captain Sheridan and Delenn in the war room. Delenn quickly explains they need to take the White Star to the Temporal Rift in Sector 14. En route, she explains to both of them, as well as Ivanova and Marcus Cole, that Babylon 4 had been stolen by them, or more properly, it will be stolen by them. She explains that during the First Shadow War, the Shadows destroyed the Minbury's Great Space Station, and without a replacement the Side of Light would have lost the war. The replacement was Babylon 4, stolen through time by them. Sinclair affirms what Delenn says, not disclosing at that time the contents of the letter. The White Star is also met by Zathras, who has brought the equipment necessary to pull the station through time, and Sinclair remembers him from when he went aboard Babylon for the first time. Sinclair asks Sheridan to not bring Garibaldi aboard, fearing for what might happen to them both when they encounter the same temporal field for a second time. After they evacuated the crew and re-entered Babylon 4 into the time stream. Now at last Sinclair reveals the truth. The letter was from Valin but in his handwriting. The only explanation is that he travelled back in time and became Valin. Delenn's metamorphosis had been foretold by Valin as a way of complementing his own transformation. He explained to them that he could accept it, as it cleared up many uncertainties in his mind, and it was the only way. The others departed, leaving only he and Zathras to take the station to the distant past. Arriving in 1260, Sinclair contacted the Vorlons, most likely the only two Vorlons he knew, Kosh and Ulkesh. With the two of them aboard, Sinclair used a triluminary to enter a chrysalis and become a Minbury not born of Minbury. He presented Babylon 4 to the Minbury, and introduced himself as Valin. Sometime after Sinclair's departure, Secturval, one of the few to share the secret of Sinclair's true destiny, found a note addressed to Marcus Cole. Though there was no way to tell when the note itself was written, the sheet of paper was very old and of a kind that could be as much as 1,000 years old.